Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Files Obscura podcast. This episode is brought to you by the Anchor app. If you're like me and probably didn't know where to go to start a podcast or didn't know what to do, then you'll be very glad to hear that the Anchor app is free to download and gives you everything you need available on your phone or your laptop. And you'll be given all the tools you'll need to edit, to play music in the background, to have live guests record your episodes with you, and so much more. Anchor also allows you to distribute your podcast anywhere that you want to be heard, such as Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and the list goes on. I know ourselves, so far, we have at least 7 platforms. And another great thing is that you're able to start making money for your podcast with absolutely no minimum listenership. So if you're interested in starting tomorrow, you can also start recording advertisements tomorrow if you were so interested. But everyone goes at their own pace. All you need to know is that this is everything you need to make a podcast and so much more to help you along the way. It's user-friendly and easy to figure out, as time goes on and you figure yourself out. So all you need to do is go download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. Once again, that was anchor.fm to get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Files Obscura podcast, where today we have another special guest. Welcome, Stephanie from the Uncover True Crime podcast.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Stephanie?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Doing great. And as always, we are joined by Vlad.
Hello there.
And Cece.
Hi.
So I know, Cece, you have a bit going on. You're stuttering a little bit.
Yes, I've had a little bit of no sleep, but that's fine.
It's okay. We'll get through just fine because I got a bit of a cough that I'm fighting through too. So we're good. But we have a very, very fun case that I pulled from the recesses of my mind whenever I decided to look into it. And I didn't realize how much, extra material was part of the story that I didn't know. It's called the lead mask case of Vintém Hill from Brazil. And it happened during mid-60s. So it was in the US during the mid-60s around this time when you think in terms of paranormal or whatever. We get a lot of alien, conversations and cult and hippie movements and stuff going on. So the idea in the supernatural was very prevalent, worldwide. As we see into this case, the theories range quite a bit. So, before we get into it, how are we all doing? I know this is our first recording since I got back from Illinois.
Yeah.
So I'm still really tired. I actually got back yesterday as of recording this. So,
well, I'm doing pretty well so far. I'm doing all right. So it's been a good day, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what about you, Cece?
I've been existing, I guess is the best way to put it.
I understand. I know you've been busy, Stephanie. I've been seeing all your uploads lately about all these cases in the past, and talking more about some of the more black true crimes that people don't really talk about and stuff. I've been enjoying them myself personally.
Thank you.
How's it going for you?
Thank you. Yeah, so this week, as we're recording this, it's Thursday, and this week, Monday through to Friday, I've been posting a new episode every week, every day, where I uncover a case where racism has killed a person of colour. And I've really tried to kind of vary the cases that I talk about. So there's a wrongful conviction, and there's a case that's thought to be a wrongful conviction. There's a child who was killed by a police officer. There is an unarmed person being shot. There's disappearances, suspicious deaths. There's a lot going on this week. So it means a lot to me that people are supporting it, and I've had a lot of good feedback off it. So I'm happy with how the series is going.
Yeah, I've been seeing a lot of good feedback from that too. And like I said, I've been enjoying your podcast. I don't get to listen to it daily because I do a lot in my free time for this podcast, plus my work, plus me possibly moving within the next month. So I've been pretty busy. But in the free times I do try to encourage, and listen to a lot of the friends I've made so far with you and Sebastian over from the Stay Hydrated podcast. It's been great
breaks from reality, as I like to say, for a minute, where I get to immerse into these new stories. I know one part of you doing this actually inspired me to do a story that I'm going to research in a later episode. I don't want to make any promises about it, but I definitely know I want to cover it about Emmett Till.
I remember the Emmett Till case.
Yes. So, but I feel like it's a very important case to talk about, especially some of the recent news, and I mean recent in like the past decade, associated with him. Some of the things that have come out, I definitely want to cover. And then there's all these new cases that we are hearing about today, about like how Madeleine McCann's supposed killer has been found somewhere in a prison in Germany. I can't remember the couple who had 2 dead children buried in their yard or whatever. That
Lori
yes.
and Chad Daybell.
I don't remember the name to save my life right now. But yeah, like there's a lot of these stories coming out, and I'm like, okay. This might be, worth looking into. And then there's Vanessa Gillian, who is actually, that Fort Hood soldier whose body we believe we found and everything, encased in concrete. And the supposed suspect that we believed, he killed himself.
I think I heard about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right before we started recording this, I was watching a press conference about that case. And supposedly, saying supposedly here, there's apparently no evidence that she was ever sexually assaulted or sexually harassed.
Of course not.
I know it's crazy.
But again, and I should also state right now, both my parents were both in the Army, in the U.S. Army. My mom's a veteran. My dad was, he was, I believe, at least 6 years of my life was in the Army before we moved here to Texas. My mom was stationed in Fort Hood for a few years. So yeah, it's like, it's not that far for me, to hear that happened. It's just crazy. It took so long to even get any attention for the case. And from the point that I first heard about it on Facebook about a week and a half ago, right before my trip, to now, her body's been found because of all this attention that's being stirred up. It's crazy to hear it all. And I would love to cover her case, but I feel like it's just too soon to try to get all that information because it's going to keep changing for a minute.
I felt like that when I was deciding what cases to cover this week. I purposefully didn't cover like Breonna Taylor or George Floyd because it's far too raw and fresh. And don't get me wrong, like for families of victims, no matter how long it's gone by, I'm sure it's always really, really raw. But because of all the updates that are coming out about all these cases, it just didn't kind of sit right with me to cover them right now. I know I wouldn't be able to do them justice because, as you say, like every day there's something else and something else. It's constantly evolving.
Yeah, every story is important to hear, definitely, for sure. Nobody should ever be forgotten. But of course, it in theory, it's impossible for any one person or any one small group to truly cover it. But that's kind of, the goal of this podcast is that we just encourage discussion in general, because yes, we may not get to it, but that doesn't mean we don't have fans out there who want to talk about it. And I want to provide a community to where they could do that, So even for cases that we may not deem, qualified enough to be an episode, as in it's a normal case, it's pretty cut and dry. I don't want that to ever feel like that should invalidate that discussion here. That still has a home here. It's just, we like to focus on the strange and the weird because I like mystery. I like curiosity. I like that question. So
fun little fact about the Madeleine McCann thing. Actually, one of my very best friends was on the cruise ship she was on.
Really?
Yeah. He would have been, if I remember correctly, about two. I think he said at the time. He was very young.
All right. Well, that's certainly interesting. Like we were even talking about the connection from the Setagaya family murders, where they were talking about the possible connection to the Edwards Air Force Base that was near where I grew up, or around the time I lived there.
Which is very fascinating. I still think it's incredibly fascinating.
Yeah, what are the odds,
Yeah.
But anyways, like all of our cases, we got an interesting one today. Like I said, we have the lead mask case from Vintame Hill, all the way down in Brazil.
All right.
And as always, before we get into it, We're going to do 2 truths and a lie. We're going to have some fun with this. So
I want to win this one.
Yes, you do. I know you do. I get them almost every time. Almost every time. I think Vlad's got me once or twice. Cece, I believe, has got me at least once.
Yeah.
So, all right. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Yep.
All right. So, our first statement. The 2 men associated with the case, found on the Vintam Hill were believed to be associated with a scientific spiritualist group, almost like a cult-like order that believes that they were trying to contact beings of another world. You got that?
I got that.
Yeah.
All right. So, theory, what am I saying? Statement number 2. The police that investigated the case found evidence that would later suggest that these 2 men were actually part of a black market trade of electronics parts, which were actually really expensive at the time in Brazil. Well, you'll find out later that these guys were electronics specialists, that are associated with the case.
Okay.
So these would be people who could reasonably buy and sell the parts.
Okay.
Okay.
So, and our last statement, that there is actually a 3rd body linked to the famous case found under similar circumstances in a nearby hill located somewhere else near Rio de Janeiro, found with lead masks and everything.
Well,
So, we got all 3 statements. Do I need to repeat any?
repeat the third one.
Repeat the 3rd one. Okay. So, there is a 3rd body that is linked to the famous case that we're going to discuss that was found under similar circumstances in another hill in Rio de Janeiro. Or near Rio de Janeiro.
All right, so I'm currently bouncing between the first and second one.
Okay.
I would like to say first, but with the pattern that I go for, the ones that sounds most outlandish, I'm usually wrong.
Yeah, and then every once in a while I trip you up. You know that.
I remember people.
Yeah.
That was fun.
That would wind up actually being a true statement.
Yeah, I thought you were making something up, which I mean.
Nah, that I would not have thought that was a good lie if that wasn't part of the story. I thought that would have been too much.
See, I thought you were doing some kind of reverse psychology thing on me.
Nope.
All right, well, I'm gonna go with the second one.
You're gonna go with the second one?
Yeah.
You think that they were not part of a black market trade?
Nope.
Okay. What about you, Stephanie?
I'm torn between the first and the third, but I'm going to say that the first one is a lie.
You do not believe that they were associated with the spiritualist scientific group?
No.
All right. Cece, what do you think?
I'm going to stick with first.
You're going to go with the first one as well? Okay, so Stephanie and Cece, you both believe that they were not part of a scientific spiritualist group?
Mm-hmm.
And Brad, you don't believe that they were part of a black market trade for parts?
That's correct.
All right, everyone solid? Everyone want to lock in their answers?
Locked.
Locked in.
All right, let's get started. So, as always, let's start at the beginning. Let's get to know our 2 victims. The names are Miguel Jose Viana. Real quick, by the way, I don't speak Portuguese. I'm definitely going to butcher some of these names. I am sorry. So, our victims are Miguel Jose Viana and Manuel Pereira da Cruz. They worked together as electronics technicians and were respected men in their towns. Campos dos that's a hard word. Goitoicazes. I can't say it. It's Goy.
You can do this.
Azes. I don't speak Portuguese.
Yeah.
That's a hard word, is that not?
That looks like Goitacoses.
Something like that. I don't know. But it's a small town that's in the Rio de Janeiro state, So it's near the city itself, Rio de Janeiro. So the story starts on August 17th in 1966 when Miguel and Manuel, they set out supposedly to gather parts for work. At 2:30 p.m., they would be traveling by bus to a nearby town of Niatroy, where they bought supplies, including raincoats from a shop and water from a bar. People would later claim that Miguel seemed very nervous, with the waitress at the bar commenting Miguel constantly was checking his watch, and looking outside the windows. Mm-hmm. So he seemed very paranoid and jittery. After the pair went and go ahead and bought their supplies around 3:15 p.m., some accounts claim that the pair rode in a Jeep that they were able to hitch a ride from and go up Nitroy's Hill, Maro do Vintem, which is the name of the hill. And at around 5 p.m., a local boy named Jorge de Costa Alves claimed that he saw the two men higher up on the hill, and this would be the last account of these men seen alive. Jorge would return the following day and remembered seeing the men laying in the tall grass. And he thought that they must have been out there working this whole time or doing something, and that they actually just fell asleep. I believe some accounts said that he went out in the morning, so that's why he would have assumed so. But I didn't see that being corroborated too much. But he didn't think anything more of it. It would take another 2 days to pass before Jorge would try to go up the hill, as he was, fond of flying his kite. He's a 5-year-old boy, and the hill provided, enough space at the top. Yeah. Enough wind to help him play. But whenever he got to the top of the hill, he realized that it was just rancid with a putrid smell of rotting corpses, and that alerted Jorge to go tell the local officials about the bodies. This is when police would have to wait at least one more day to visit the locations and investigate, as the hill isn't the most accessible at the bottom. It's covered with a lot of shrubbery and trees, and nightfall was already approaching by the time that he came back down. Okay. So at this point, these bodies have been here for 3 days. So when the police began to investigate, they noticed the items previously brought on the 17th, along with these lead masks that made the case so famous, 2 wet towels, and a notebook. The masks were lead and with no way to. They were made in a way that you couldn't see through them. There's like no slits, there's no lenses, there's no holes, nothing.
So it's like a sleeping mask.
Kind of, yeah, because it's not covering your whole face. They look almost like sunglasses. So all it did was cover their eyes. The bottle of mineral water that they bought was completely empty. And when they looked into the notebooks, they found passages and cryptic notes. One of these passages, translated from Portuguese, reads, 1630, be at specific location. 1830, ingest capsules after the effect. Protect metals, await signal mask. What?
Total sense right there.
I mean, yeah. So
clear as mud.
Yeah, so real interesting right off the bat.
Very odd.
So in the pockets, the investigators, they looked and they found these receipts for the men's purchases and a small amount of money that they had left over, but there's no physical evidence that they found of these pills or anything. Further in the notebook, what appeared to be a set of cryptic notes would later be found and identified as part numbers for work-related items. So as the police are going to investigate some more, they're trying to come up with theories and everything of what could happen. However, there's going to be a bump in the road. The bodies of the 2 men would be sent off to the coroner, but despite possible substance use, because of the note claiming for that they were to ingest capsules, a toxicology report would never take place. The coroner at the time cited the high volume of cases to investigate, and by the time he could get to Manuel and Miguel's bodies, they had decomposed too much to perform the test, as their entire insides were already rotting.
Wow.
The cause of death would later be... Yeah, it's terrible.
Can you not? I'm sure you can get toxicology results off of strands of hair.
Again, 1966 in Brazil.
I'm forgetting what year this was. Sorry.
Yeah. It's also in Brazil. I'm not going to compare their medical standards to what we have here in Houston, Mm-hmm. So, later on, the coroner would label the cause of death as cardiac arrest, despite, there's not enough evidence to really completely back that. The police would then carry on their search at Miguel's workshop and talk to a friend of the 2 men named Elcio Gomez. Through Elcio, the police would find an interesting lead to a group of specific scientific spiritualists comprised of nearly all electronic specialists in the district who experimented in various ways. Elcio, along with Manuel's father and a few others, would corroborate the details of an event that happened in Manuel's garden about 2 months prior. The 2 men and Elcio would build a device and conduct an experiment to contact Mars, but they were unsuccessful. The device would explode, and it would send a ripple effect throughout the neighborhood. A similar and much larger incident took place on June 13th, 1966, on the beach of Espírito Santo, northeast of Rio de Janeiro. The explosion was felt 15 kilometers away, and local fishermen reported seeing a flying saucer fall into the sea.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's odd.
It gets stranger.
Oh.
I didn't expect that. I'll be honest. I didn't think there'd be any flying saucers in this one.
Well, we were wrong, Stephanie.
Yeah.
I still have a chance.
Still have a chance.
Yeah.
Another related incident is that of a television technician named Hermes, who was found dead on top of Morro do Cruzeiro, another hill in Rio de Janeiro, with a lead mask also being found in 1962, so 4 years prior.
Oh.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't know why I did that. When police investigated Miguel's workshop, they would discover tools and lead scraps used in the mask making. A book was also found with more passages about intense luminosity, possibly referring to some beings or craft they would plan to encounter. They were also able to determine neither man wrote the note found in their pockets when they based it off of the evidence that they had of Manuel's and Miguel's handwriting.
So a mystery third person.
Another person wrote the note for them as a set of instructions.
Huh.
So finally, it should be noted the number of alleged UFO sightings witnessed on the night of the men's death. One account, oh God, I'm not even going to try to say this name.
Want to see it?
I'm just going to call her Da Sosa because that's what the rest of the article referred to her as.
Yeah.
That whole long ass
Boy,
name.
that's her whole name?
Yeah, that's her whole name.
I thought it was right here. Okay.
I'm not even going to butcher it. I'm going to show you guys, but I'm going to write it down in the description of what her name is. Everything that my fingers are under in the notebook.
That's
a long ass name.
I know that is great for the audio listeners to have no idea what I'm talking about. I know.
Trust us, it's long.
Trust me. I'm Hispanic too.
You gotta have like 4 names,
so
else you're not Hispanic.
Again, I'm just going to address her as Da Sosa. So Da Sosa and her children, they would claim to see an oval-shaped object of an orangey color with a band around its edges, sending out rays in all directions, hanging over the top, Morro do Ventane. The objects rose and fell vertically for some 3 to 4 minutes before it would take off to the sky and fly away. So that was all the evidence I could find related to this case, but let's get into some theories. So, of course, let's go with something reasonable, something that we can ground ourselves in reality. Theory number 1. The police, disregarding all supernatural explanation, began to speculate that the 2 men were part of some black market trade of electronic parts as they were expensive in Brazil during the 60s. One possibility claims that they were killed and robbed of these parts listed in the notebook. However, this offers no answers to many strange finds made by the officials, as there is also no evidence to back up foul play.
Okay,
so you're wrong too.
All right.
Why do you keep getting us?
So because the point is that you don't know the story. That's how it works.
Okay, so what's the third one?
BS.
No, the third one was right.
Yeah, that's the
yeah.
Third one's the one that.
Yeah.
All right, never mind. So.
So.
Yeah, cool. All right.
I mean, it sounds reasonable, but think about the effort you'd have to go to corroborate all of the evidence that you're finding. Okay, you have to convince an entire group of men that there's some alien beings out there just to get them to fund parts to sell back to you. It's like you got to spend so much time and money for that to be real.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not completely impossible. I will not say that, but highly improbable in my opinion.
Yeah, it seems a bit far-fetched.
Just a bit.
Too much effort.
Yeah, just a bit. You know, well, let's dip our toes a bit into some strange, okay? Theory number 2. An explanation supported by a Brazilian, and I quote, professor of yoga, who claims the men overdosed on some illicit drug used to make contact with whoever the pair were attempting to reach. Quote, the men have been trying to carry out a telepathic experiment with high-frequency thought waves with LSD-25 or mescaline, unquote. It should be noted that the deaths from an LSD overdose is extremely rare, but does happen and risks increase with alcohol consumption, but no alcohol was ever recorded since there was no toxicology report to verify and there was no alcohol recovered at the scene. So, I mean, and here's where I go back a bit in talking about, my past and exploring more unconventional belief systems. I get what they're trying to say, but at the same time, it makes no sense, because the idea basically is that your thoughts that are in your head can manifest like radio waves, not exactly radio waves, but it's something similar, analogous to it. And through drugs, you basically amplifying it to make contact with these other people. That's basically what he's trying to say. And
I kind of believe the whole they follow drug thing idea, just because I don't know, I guess it's just bizarre enough to where I'm like, maybe everybody was high on LSD.
I mean, it was the 60s.
It makes some sense.
Yeah.
I completely believe that they took drugs. Don't get me wrong. I just do not believe the drugs are what killed them. Because I will say, from my own personal experience, I have experimented with quite a few substances, LSD being one of them. And I've had good chemicals, I've had bad chemicals. But obviously I'm still here. And I've taken quite high doses the few times I have.
Well, we don't know, maybe there was something wrong with it.
Possibly there are bad batches. It's not impossible to have that. But still, again, you don't normally die from it. You normally have brain rot, but that's it.
I mean, health can be a factor.
That is a good point. That's a great point, because maybe you're right. A normal, healthy person could have probably handled it, but if they all had health issues, that's a big if. That would require all of them.
Fair. And I didn't do research to see how well off these guys actually were, being electronic specialists. Yeah. But if these electronic parts are expensive and everything, they might have been doing a little better off, at least, than everyone else. Not wealthy, but be able to afford more than most.
Yeah, probably be a little bit more easy access to money.
Yeah.
Also, the LSD could have been laced with something, and when you said there was no alcohol found at the scene, are they absolutely sure that the bottles of mineral water had water in them? Do you know what I mean? Because they were empty. Is there a possibility there was alcohol in them?
I mean, it was a bottle that was from a local distributor, and they bought it the night that they supposedly died from the bar.
Right.
So, I mean, reasonable assumption being, you can say it's water, and I'm pretty sure they did a test on the water bottle just to be sure, but at the same time, it's a reasonable assumption to say it was just water.
That makes sense.
So, of course, we go to the last theory, the fun theory. Despite all rational attempts to explain, the case, there's too many details that lead to wild theories, many believing that the men truly encountered some foreign or alien visitors that would then lead these men to their deaths, or even, as I found one person help them transcend their physical bodies to live beyond with some alien, I don't know, spiritual form.
That always makes me giggle.
I mean, it's funny to think about. It really is. Especially because I get where they're coming from, because I was part of that mental circle for a very long time.
I'm just going to put it out there right now. I am a proper skeptic when it comes to anything supernatural.
Yeah.
And this case is so bizarre, and I don't have an idea in my head of what may have happened, because there's so many parts of it that are just so weird and don't seem to link up to each other and don't make sense.
No, there's too many loose ends.
Absolutely, yeah. But
so, me personally, I find it very fascinating to think about. I get where a lot of these stories are coming from, where people have these belief systems. I understand it because I was a part of that circle for a very long time. But I can also see the rational side of saying, you know, these guys maybe believed it, and they probably did sell some parts to, you know, make, you know, get money for things that they couldn't get normally, like, you know, some form of illicit drug. I believe that's possible. I don't believe that's what, you know, they were doing in the long run. But also, again, when you deal with drugs, you know, you run into the unfortunate incident of having a bad batch. So, wow, that's
What's
great.
that?
One live take every time.
What was that?
That-
Can you guys hear us?
Yeah, that was the leaf blower, dude. That's right. We're gonna keep that in there.
All
We're
right.
gonna keep that in there because I don't like doing more than one take. But I just doesn't feel natural.
Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, no, like I believe that these guys truly, you know, believe this in what they were doing and whatever they were attempting. You know, that they were probably meeting some beings, and that the intense luminosity, you know, is the reason why they had the lead masks to protect their eyes. You know, even though they wouldn't be able to see. I don't get it. You know, but they believed it nonetheless, and somebody probably sold them a bad batch of drugs that they would have thought helped them transcend, you know, to this higher plane, you know. So I believe, you know, it's got elements of everything, but it's to what actually killed them.
Hey, can I have a question about
Yeah,
the lead
what's up?
masks? Were they custom made?
Yeah. They made them in Miguel's workshop.
Okay.
Yeah, because they found the tools and the scrap pieces that they used.
All right. I just wasn't sure if this is something that was just sold on the market.
No. Because it's not like they have Amazon.
All right. No,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know. It seems, I'm still thinking about it. I'm like, that's so weird. Like, they're covering your eyes.
This is why I can't wait for you.
Yeah.
Like, honestly. But, like, oh, God. I'm sorry. I didn't think we'd be dealing with them. I thought they were done by the time we started recording. But that's okay.
He's doing the wrong for his money, at least.
I mean, fair enough. I thought they got paid at a fixed rate, though, because they do the work regularly. Whatever. It's not important.
Yeah.
Oh, God. My mind is so scatterbrained. But, yeah, like I said, I believe that there's elements, you know, to each of these theories that played a hand in what they were doing. I do believe that they probably sold some parts as a way to get these drugs, or maybe they just put aside some money from their actual jobs to support this. You know, they were crazy enough to make their own experiments that have been recorded doing crazy things, setting off explosions and apparently trying to contact UFOs, you know. So I do believe that, you know, their attempts were real. But to say aliens came down, because I didn't find any evidence of anybody saying that, you know, like a UFO landed or anything. No radiation was found. You know, nothing of that sort, you know, I could find any evidence of on this hill on this specific night or this specific time. So to say that there's possible evidence of aliens, it's hard because you have a lot of eyewitness accounts that are pretty, they're pretty subjected to conjecture or whatever. Like you can argue away a lot of it, you know. And a lot of these reports about aliens didn't come out until the case became famous too. So that's something else to consider.
It does sound like it's more than likely a case of bad drugs or bad health mixed with drugs.
Yeah.
Something of the sort, you know.
Kind of thinking that's where my mind keeps going.
Yeah, I'm not against believing that they did truly die of cardiac arrest. I just don't think we can make that call unless a toxicology report was made.
Well, it could be a bit of both. Going from personal experience here, I work with people who have substance abuse issues, and recently we had in the area that I live in, there was a batch of Valium going around that was laced with dried bleach and rat poison.
Whoa!
Yeah, it killed quite a few people.
I don't remember this.
Yeah, it killed quite a few people in the area that I lived in. So it's very possible that they got a really, really bad batch of LSD that was mixed with things that aren't even drugs, you know, pesticides, rat poison, whatever, and that caused a cardiac arrest.
I mean, it's very possible.
I think that's kind of where I'm leaning.
You know, because Stephanie, you just reminded me of the second episode that we did, the Chicago Tylenol murders of 1982.
Oh yeah.
Or was it 1980 or 1982?
I think it was 1982.
I think it was 1982.
Yeah.
Well, either way, you know, where, you know, there was a case where there was an individual who still today is technically, you know, we don't know who it is because we don't have the evidence to convict him. But what happened was, for those of us in our audience that don't know, 7 people died taking Tylenol that was laced with cyanide, because this was before the time that we had our safety seals on all of our medicine and foods. And so there was no real protection. Somebody could easily go buy these bottles, replace a couple of the capsules with cyanide, and then go put it back on the shelf for somebody else to buy. Yeah. And it's crazy, you know, what happened. You know, and it's also crazy how fast who owns Bayer? I can't remember the company that owns Bayer. I think it's Johnson & Johnson. How fast they were able to get, Johnson & Johnson. How fast they were able to get ahead of the story and really, you know, take control. And in under a year, they were able to get the public support again.
Of course, the big difference with this one is that this is not a legal drug, I'm guessing.
No.
And it, you know, which makes it even harder.
Most substance abuses aren't legal. So.
Yeah. But this is so yeah. Honestly, we probably will never really know. But
no,
I really do think it was probably drugs, and it's just unfortunate that we weren't able to get any tests done on the bodies.
No, of course not.
Mm-hmm.
However, I do want to draw one more bit of information that might convince you a bit more of aliens.
Okay.
So, I didn't write it down on my notes because I didn't think it'd be relevant. However, now that we're discussing it, it's actually, you know, it's a fun story. I say fun in a very dark way. So
the best way.
There is a case, very famous internationally, but most people in Brazil don't talk about it because it's kind of, people try to forget it from memory. There was a case of a man that was found in a reservoir who I'd have to really, really dig for the name again because I don't remember where I last found it and I don't remember it. But there was a man that was found in a reservoir in Brazil. And this was at a time where people already kind of associate Brazil with a lot of UFO activity. Well, this man, this particular individual, was, you know, found to be unrecognizably mutilated. So when I say that, I want you to think of all the reports that you've heard over the years and through your own research about animal mutilations, you know, about pieces of their faces, you know, their anuses literally being cored out, completely drained of blood, their intestines and everything completely missing. Those kind of mutilations with no explanation to who did it or why.
That's awful.
People think of aliens. That exact same thing happened to this individual, this man. Who they later found out who it was, and he was I believe either late 20s or early 30s individual. So, you know, fairly young guy. You know, his face was completely gone. He had all kinds of incisions made over his body that, when examined, you realize that they were made very quick and incredibly precise. You know, so ideally being on, you know, the edge of what humans were capable of, or even past that, you know, even with some of our technology that we use in the medical field today, you know, and keep in mind, this was back, you know, still in the 60s. They found a lot of different segments of his skin being, you know, cut off in patches. They found parts of his body, you know, especially near his genitals, being sliced open. His anus was literally cored out, you know, just gone.
How?
And just drained of blood. And, you know, even the vultures and other animals that prey on carrion and everything, they didn't go anywhere, like they didn't eat the body. There were vultures that were found surrounding the body, but none of them ever took a bite.
Yeah, I was about to ask that. Like, do we know that this was all kind of contributed to his death, or this all happened like pre-mortem?
So what happened was, if memory serves me right, there was a little boy who was out there playing with a slingshot, and was, shooting at random things out in the wild. The reservoir is not really in the city, so it's kind of more outside in, the woods and everything. So whenever he was walking around, he stumbled upon, a group of vultures. And it wasn't until he got closer that he realized, like, they flew away, but he realized they weren't eating the body. They were just kind of surrounding it.
Imagine how scarring.
Yeah,
I know. So he found the body.
I hate to be a little boring, Brazil. Apparently, you always catch a dead body.
Yeah, little boy seems finding this quite gruesome stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, that's awful.
Yeah. So there is literally no explanation of anybody who like had anything against this man or any possibility of like gang-related violence. They found no evidence to suggest somebody did this due to both its nature of what happened, because there's too many like perfectly good medical cuts, and to be completely dried of body of blood. I don't know why I got confused there, but yeah, like everything about that specific case, and it might be something I cover more because there's a lot of other cases very similar to that one too, even one that happened in the United States on a military base. Wow. Yeah. And I know his name for sure. I have it written down. But yeah, like there's so many other reports that I found in Brazil about UFO activities and abductions. There's a report, I believe somewhere, I can't remember which like area it's in, but it wasn't Rio de Janeiro. There's two boys that were playing in a field, and one of the boys got sucked up while the other boy was able to get away. The pair of boys were being attracted by what they said was like a heavy light that was pulling them up.
Well, what is with little boys in this one?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Always finding dead bodies, getting caught by aliens.
Right. So one of them got away. The other one got sucked up. When the boy who got away came back the next day, he found his friend's body and alerted the local officials. Same condition. Same condition.
So Brazil has an alien problem, as far as
yeah. It seems like they can
Yeah, so all I get from this is it sucks to be a little boy in Brazil.
Yeah.
Let's be fair, though. It kind of sucks to be in Brazil anyways.
Nothing
against Brazilians. I'm sure it's great. I've never been. But I'm saying economic-wise, it kind of sucks.
I mean, I know somewhat the mental effects of finding just a normal body, because my mother found a body on one of her walks. She was going on a walk to a nearby castle, and someone had died of a heart attack. I believe she said it was 10 minutes before she got there, and had just collapsed. Oh, no. And that mattered with her for a while, because obviously she's thinking she could have saved him, and that's just a very, very simple thing compared to what these people found.
Okay.
Yeah. I've never seen or came into any contact with a dead body, thank God. However, I have had to give chest compressions to somebody and perform like full-on CPR, and that alone will stick with me for the rest of my life. And thankfully that person survived. Like, I can't even imagine finding a dead body or trying to save someone's life and not be successful. Like, I can't imagine how awful that must be.
No,
I
my mother never talks about it anymore, and I don't blame her.
I wouldn't want to talk about that either. I can't imagine how awful that must be to live with that, and oh gosh. And
it was a son of one of the people in our village as well. It was one of her friend's sons.
Oh, damn, that sucks.
That would be worse, like having a personal connection to them, and
same name as my twin as well. So that's just like, this just gets better and better.
Yeah, it strikes a bit close to home.
Yeah, I mean, it sucks to imagine. I did JROTC for 3 years in high school. And at the end of every year, they made us learn, CPR and first aid because, it was part of the curriculum. At first I didn't like it, but I actually took pride in me learning it because I remember an incident that I actually had to help a man. He was a cyclist who got ran over by a man driving away from the cops.
Oh my.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. I actually helped manage to find one of the dude's headlights and part of his bumper, which helped identify which car it was when they found him later on. So that was great. Luckily, there was already a woman who was a registered nurse, helping him by the time I got there. But that is just one of the many times I've had to, use the first aid training I learned, because there was another incident where there was a drunk woman. This was around the time I was kicked out of my parents' house whenever I was 17. So a long time ago, learned my lesson. I was kicked out, so I was waiting outside of work, and this was 3, 4 in the morning. I worked at Taco Bell at the time. They opened up at 6. So, well, the workers got there at 6. That way we can prep for the morning and everything. There was a lady who was going 60, 70 miles an hour, drove straight into a very small truck filled with 4 dudes on their way to work. Hit them straight on. The guys were fine. The girl was when we got to her, she looked like she was dead or passed out.
Oh, no.
And I was afraid of her being passed out and not responding because of possible internal bleeding. I was apparently the only guy there that learned first aid, so I'm sitting there trying to pry the door open. Luckily, she woke up and was responsive, and that's when I learned she was drunk. She was running away from assault charges.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What is your luck?
And driving, she kept trying to run away, and I was just not aggressive about it, but I was basically holding her. It's no, you got to wait till an ambulance comes so we can make sure you're okay. I know you're running away from shit. I don't care.
Yeah.
I'm not going to have you die and then it'd be my fault,
I think the worst I've ever personally experienced was I was waiting for the bus to college. I think I was in my third year at the time, and I was with a few old people at the stop. My village is mainly retirees, and this woman was sat at the end of the stop, and basically she looked about 70 or 80 and just keeled over to the side.
Whoa, what?
Yeah, we don't know what happened. I wasn't around to see the final results, but luckily the stop is right opposite the pharmacy and the surgery. So we got medical staff over, and they were trying to keep her warm and keep her head up. I don't think she hit her head. It didn't seem to be any bleeding, but that was a shock to just see this woman go from I think to just collapsed off the side of the seat.
Yeah,
that's terrifying. I think I'd have a moment where I wouldn't know what to do.
I panicked. I just stared. I mean, I was going to about 17 at the time, so I would have been completely clueless.
Yeah.
I mean, I've done loads of first aid training over the years just because of jobs that I have now and that I've required it. So yeah. I have done kind of on the dummy, the fake compressions, everything, and shouted, help, phone 999. I've done all that in training. Absolutely nothing could have prepared me for giving someone chest compressions. Because see, when you're in the first aid, training room, and you're calm when you're doing these compressions, and you're like, please, someone help me. That is not the mindset you're in when you're actually doing it. Every single bit of knowledge I had from first aid, out the window.
It just
totally.
goes.
You're going on hyperdrive right now. You're filled with adrenaline. You're trying to go through a catalog of memories, and you're not loading, and you're just I'm stuck, and I know I need to do something.
Absolutely. The time that I had to give someone chest compressions, I've got to really be careful about what I say about it, because I have to keep it confidential. However, I had to inject them with something, and to help save their life, I had to inject them. Yeah. And the woman on 999 says to me, Right, so just inject them with like this, like 1 milligram or whatever the unit was, I can't remember. And I knew that if I gave them the whole thing, it wasn't going to hurt them. I knew that. And I was like, my hands are not steady enough for that shit. He is getting the full whack. He's getting the full dose. My hands are not steady enough for this. Nope. Like,
oh, wow.
it was awful. And that was actually happened quite recently, but I will never forget that night as long as I live. It was awful.
I remember having to help a friend, get his EpiPen because for some reason this idiot left it in his locker. This was like probably my sophomore year of high school, because I knew he was allergic to peanuts. Some asshole gave him a sandwich that, had a little bit of peanut butter on it, and he didn't know it, and he just took a bite of it. As soon as I saw that, I was like, dude, where's your pen? That's where I went on like hyperdrive mode, because like I saw it in time to witness it, but not enough time to tell him no,
Wait, so somebody gave, like, did they know that this guy had an allergy?
I don't think so. I think they were just like, hey, do you want a bite of this? Because, he seems, I don't remember. It's still, it was sophomore year. I don't quite remember everything.
Yeah. That's why you check.
Again, I don't think he knew. I don't think that this kid that offered him the food was really like friends with us. He was kind of, just learning to associate with other people and stuff. I don't quite remember the details. Like I said, I just remember hauling ass to go up the staircase in the commons to get to his locker. Once this fucker finally told me where it was, because it took him a good second to remember where he put his pen, because he thought he had it in his bag. It was not in his bag. So luckily I got back to him in time. The swelling had just started. So once I got the pen in there, it took a minute, but he was calm. Nobody really kind of freaked out after that, because most of his friends knew, like, by the time he got his pen, it was like, okay, we're good.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So he decided not to go to the nurses. He decided not to tell his family and asked them to be quiet about it.
Good choices.
You know what? I'll give him that one. He survived. He's all good. I think he learned his lesson. Check to make sure. So.
Yeah, allergies are not like intolerances. I can take as much dairy as I want. I'm not going to die.
Yeah. I'm one of these people that's allergic to everything.
Oh, it's like my mother.
Know how people say, like, when you dye your hair, always do a patch test, and you see photos of people who their face is so swollen they can barely open their eyes. That's me if I dye my hair.
Oh,
like,
wow.
it's extreme.
Yeah, I'm lucky on that aspect. I'm not really allergic to anything but sunscreen.
Interesting.
Yeah, no.
That must be a really inconvenient thing to be.
It's
even
only
in England,
sunscreen.
Like, pardon?
It's only certain sunscreen. I can't remember which one for the life of me. I just remember in primary school, I borrowed sunscreen from a friend and ended up in a full body rash the next day.
I'm allergic to hair dye, henna, and face paint, all because of the same chemical.
Wow.
The same chemicals in all of them. It's also in gasoline and printer ink, but thankfully in like really, really low qualities.
Okay, that's good.
I'm allergic to peppercorn. I'm allergic to onions. I'm allergic to latex. I may also be allergic to nuts. Like, I'm just one of those people. You can't take me anywhere. I'm a nightmare.
How do you function?
I don't know. I eat a lot of sandwiches. That's just my diet.
You're basically allergic to the periodic table.
Pretty much. Yeah. It's very inconvenient.
So hearing you say what you're allergic to makes me feel pretty lucky, but still nothing makes me feel luckier than my mother and her allergies. See, I'm allergic to, dust. I'm allergic to ragweed, which is very common here in Texas. So it sucks. That's why I don't wear shorts very often. And I'm also allergic to tree nuts. Tree nuts I'm getting over. It's kind of weird to say, but yeah, I don't get as bad a reaction out of them as I used to. But like fresh cut grass and everything, I'll break out in hives. It's ridiculous. But my mother, she's the one who's like allergic to everything under the sun. I think officially she's allergic to like 67 different things. I'm not joking.
That's
She's
a hard life to live.
She's allergic to everything from like red meat, certain tree nuts. She's allergic to cats and dogs. She's allergic to normal milk because she's allergic to lactose. She can't have normal cheese because of that. There's like so much.
What is it that's in red meat that she's allergic to?
But it destroys her stomach. She feels uncomfortable. It doesn't bode well for her.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, I feel quite lucky now.
Yeah.
I'm just waiting.
We get by just
a Texan who can't eat red meat.
Well, she's from Panama, so.
All right, never mind.
But either way, we're getting to the end of the episode.
I was about to say, like, our conversation.
I know we're
kind of major tangent.
My fault. Oh well.
We gotta lighten up the mood a little after talking about mutilations. And
I mean, there's not only that. There's so much going on in everyone's lives right now. It's like I don't mind, having a bit longer conversation than normal. So, but of course, Stephanie, it was wonderful having you on here.
Thank you for having me. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. Yep. Of course, obviously we're going to plug in your podcast, the Uncover True Crime Podcast. You can find on YouTube. But is there any place else that you want to bring people to?
Yeah, so as you says, you can find it on YouTube, anywhere you listen to podcasts. I've also recently started a Facebook group, like a discussion page. Yeah, this is really recent. So a discussion page, if anyone wants to come over there and discuss cases and stuff, then please feel free. It's just Uncover True Crime Discussion Group. You should find it fairly easily. But yeah, to listen to all the episodes, YouTube and anywhere that you find your podcasts. All
right, cool. Yeah, definitely. And I know you can definitely follow you on Twitter, at Uncover.
Yes. I'm on Twitter at Uncover True Crime Pod and on Instagram at Uncover True. Oh, sorry, I'm going to do that again.
You're good.
I should know this. I'm on Twitter at Uncover_pod and on Instagram at Uncover True Crime Pod. And just to give a little bit of a summary as to what my podcast is, I think it's fairly obvious by the name. But generally, we cover unsolved true crime cases. So Jane and John Does, unsolved murders, missing people, suspicious deaths, all that stuff. Aaron was actually on an episode of my podcast a few weeks ago, episode 20. Yeah, I believe it was either episode 20 or 19. I think it was episode 19, actually. And we uncovered the suspicious death of Jackie Sutton. So that was a really good episode. It was a really interesting conversation.
So, yeah, I mean, of course. And like I said, I'm glad to have you on. We hope to have you on some other time in the future. You were great.
That would be great.
It's nice to have someone else from the UK.
Yeah.
See, you made a friend, Cece.
Yay.
We can talk about Greg's and Chavs.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's been a lot of fun. We hope to see you again in the future, and hope we get to work with you again. You're a lot of fun, just like you and Sebastian. I hope we can we can be great friends as we continue with our respective shows.
Yep, same having
Absolutely.
Definitely.
All right. Well, this is the end of our episode. We have a few more lined up in the future. I know I myself have a lot going on in my personal life, so I do not know what that says for the future of some of our projects and everything. However, I know we are staying firm to the fact that we are going to launch our YouTube channel this month.
Yes.
We are getting some of these videos ready and loaded. We are experimenting with some animations and art styles and everything right now. So hopefully we'll be able to provide, more material soon to come. Follow us on our Twitter and Facebook page and our Instagram to find out more whenever all that information is coming out.
I also want to say that I do have the Discord up and running now. I am active more than you two are.
So
we have people in there. Not many, but we have some.
Yeah, I was gonna start messaging them and get to know some of the people that.
Please do. These are my friends, so I would love you to get to know a couple of them.
So with all that being said, we wish you all, a great day. We hope to see you guys again next week and hope you guys enjoyed the topic. If you have any suggestions, go ahead and email us at filesobscura@gmail.com. And we hope that you guys enjoy your week.
Bye. Bye.